Spectators around the world and here in the Spodek Arena, get ready as we are about to go into the grand finals here of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. We started with 76 players, in fact, I should say, and we broke it down all the way to the remaining two. TY and Stats will go up against one another in a best of 7 to determine who wins $100,000. Here at the desk, I am joined by Todd and Rotterdam to break down exactly what's going to be occurring here for this grand final. Boys, up until this point, we've had an amazing tournament so far.
Yeah, we had, you just mentioned, we started with 76 players. Stats was one of them. He's in the final two. 4 players won their group earlier in our group stages. And 3 of them were Terran, 1 of them was Zerg. In that top 12, we had 6 Terrans, 4 Zergs, and 2 Protosses. 1 of them is in the finals. What is going on? Stats is just unstoppable so far.
Yeah, it's been such a fun tournament. We've had so many good games. I think even today, the semifinals really did deliver. I'm excited for this finals, man. Whenever these two go up against each other, it's always so close. It's 1-2, 2-1. Every now and then, you'll see someone take a 3-0, but then the next series, the other player will win again. So this should be a really good close final.
Yeah, you're right. Stats really breaks the mold in terms of the representation that has come into this last bracket especially. So it's fantastic to see how he's transcended the position of all the other Protoss that we actually had available to us. For now, though, of course, we do find them in the grand final here. Let's talk about TY first. He's come off the back opening $200,000 at WESG. And then from that point on, you know, some results here and there, kind of a little bit rockier. But here at this tournament, he has shown up and he looks like a dominant force that could easily take this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little worried in the quarterfinals. He was struggling against Gumiho. That was a very close series. But today, earlier against Alive, who played phenomenal. I think Alive looked... I agree with you, Todd. I mean, it looks a little silly, right? When you predict someone to win and then suddenly they go out. But Alive looked so incredibly good, yet TY was able to stop him. It's going to be sick, man. When these two went up against each other in the group stage, it was so close.
Yeah.
And like you said, this has been a fantastic year for TY. Artosa said it as well. This guy's been a pro gamer for 10 years. He never won. Well, second final in 2 months. That's amazing.
And for Stats, this is his second Intel Extreme Masters grand final in a row, going up against a Terran. We saw him in Gyeonggi. He did lose quite harshly to Innovation. But here against TY, I feel like he's a different player, even just in that short period of time. Yeah, he looks phenomenal.
Definitely he has. Like, he's been more impressive than TY, even though TY's been pretty impressive himself. Stats' progression in these tournaments is just incredible. And again, Stats is one of those guys that started from the first round. He was playing in our brackets in the studio shows early on, a couple days ago. TY, that wasn't the case for him. So Stats, I have to say, for me, he's the favorite going into this match, but TY has shown such resilience in all of his matches. This guy refuses to be faced by anything, not just when you look at him physically, but also in those games. You can throw anything you want at him. He's just going to survive. And that series against Alive goes to tell us that he has a chance here, I think, in these grand finals.
Yeah, and even the series that they had against each other, right, in the group stage. I mean, we had so many good series, so I don't want to say it was the best series of the tournament, but that Game 3 on Proxima, that was amazing. If you haven't watched it yet, I mean, after this grand finals, go back and watch Game 3 when they played against each other, because I felt TY was doing almost everything right, and we really thought Stats was about to die, because every Protoss in there would have died. TY was doing so many things right, yet he somehow survived, and he turned it around. That was such a cool game.
Yeah, TY was the one to open the scoreboard in that series as well on Nuclear Precinct. A Widowmine drop basically snowballed out of control. He kept on dropping from there, and he had a very successful game in game number 1. So could be anybody's game. Hoping for many maps and a lot of action.
All right. So, of course, TY has had to go through 2 Chaos Masters in the previous 2 rounds in Gumiho and Alive. Now he's going up against Stats, who, yes, is a Protoss instead of a Terran, of course, but he does like to invoke chaos in his games, create volatility for his opponent to go up against him. Can TY buckle down against that here against Stats?
I absolutely think he can, but at the same time, when it comes to this matchup in particular, Stats obviously is still very good with Warp Prism, so you're definitely right in that regard. But on the other end, Stats also showed us that he can sit back. He can just defend, defend. The closest thing that I can compare it to is Rain a couple of years ago, when Rain was the best Protoss player in the world, and Rain was just sitting back. He's like, yeah, Terran's very good. Come on, drop me. And he would just defend everything like a freaking ninja, you know? He has like a sword. That's kind of what Stats is against Terran. He just deflects every attack. So I don't know if there is an opening, but at the same time, TY is also the type of player that it's like, oh, you sit back, I sit back, I'm confident, and there is one thing we haven't seen Stats go up against that much, and that is Liberator range, and I would really like to see that a lot in this series.
The Genji of StarCraft II, you would say, with his sword. But overall, gentlemen, before we get into this, we are almost ready. I want to get your predictions for the full best of 7 here for the grand final. I know I'm putting you at a harsh spot, I'm sorry.
You first.
Go ahead. No way.
I really hate to predict against Stats because he's my Protoss brother and he's definitely the favorite Protoss or the best Protoss in the world and my favorite Protoss. But I somehow feel that the momentum right now is with TY. I think he's getting stronger and stronger, and I think it's going to be a very close 4-3 victory in favor of TY.
Todd?
It pains me to agree with Roddy, but I feel 4-3 either way, leaning a little bit more towards Stats just because he's looked incredible, even more so than TY, in my opinion.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. It is now time to get into it. These two players have battled against the very best in the world and have found themselves in the grand final here for the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice for StarCraft.
This is the place where history is made. Colosseum to which all the roads lead. The theatre of cyber gladiators. This is the stage where players come to find out who they are. To prove everyone that their efforts were not in vain. To capture the world's attention and build a legacy. Welcome to the Intel Extreme Masters Grand Final.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the IEM Katowice Grand Finals. We have the best Protoss in the world fighting to become a StarCraft II champion for the very first time. While facing him is the WESG champion looking to ride his momentum to a second StarCraft II title. Katowice, give it up for Stats and TY!
We are finally here at the Intel Extreme Masters Grand Finals. We are Tasteless and Artosis Tastosis, bringing you this best of 7 to decide who will become the champion here tonight.
And what a champion it will be. Former teammates in TY and Stats going at it. One of the 4 horsemen of Terran going against the greatest Protoss in the world.
It's been a week of nonstop StarCraft II action. We started with 76 players. We've narrowed it down now to 2. Everything these players know about StarCraft II is going to have to be utilized in order for one of these 2 to come out on top. TY, mechanically, he's been absolutely brilliant. His tactics are just so difficult to deal with, but at the same time, Stats is a player who knows how to adapt.
That is very true. You know, Stats is like the one Protoss that has shown us how you can defeat Terrans in these big, long macro games, how you can defend all of their drops. But can he do that against the most tactically brilliant player that we have in all of StarCraft, TY?
Bear in mind, in a best of 7, you have a lot of time to read how your opponent is playing and how you can respond to it. So in a situation like this, the first few build orders used are very important. Do you want to go for some kind of a rush or try to play an alternative style to give them a red herring in what they might try to use against you later on?
Well, I think that this is more important for Stats to think about than TY, to be honest, Tasteless. You know, we look back at IEM Gyeonggi in December, the beginning of the StarCraft II season this year, and Stats got demolished by Innovation in the grand finals. He lost 0-4. And I felt like after game number 2, his mentality was shattered. I'm hoping for his sake he doesn't go 0-2 to start here against TY.
I agree. Stats, really a story of an incredibly patient and calculated Protoss player. In the late game, it seems like nobody can touch him. However, TY always able to chip away at whoever he's against, always able to eke out damage. And in moments where TY has been behind, he's oftentimes engineered a comeback.
Now get ready, guys, because game number 1 has loaded up. Introducing our player in the bottom left, in the red, he is TY!
And his opponent down here in the bottom right, in the blue, our Protoss player.
He is Stats!
Our first map going to be Newkirk Precinct. An excellent map to start it out on. Very even for the Terran versus Protoss matchup, I would say. A lot of area that TY can try to abuse through drops and Liberator type plays, but also kind of straightforward and not too hard to take 3, 4, 5 bases for Stats.
On this map, we've had some of the longest games we've seen, not just at the Intel Extreme Masters, but in StarCraft II in general. I don't know if it's going to end up that way. We're going to have to see how good the defense is on both sides. Right now, a Nexus being made here for our Protoss player Stats. Meanwhile, a very traditional Reaper build used to scout and potentially harass here for TY.
Yeah, very standard opening so far. No one wanting to mix it up too much and try any all-ins for this first map. And truthfully, these guys know each other so well, I'm not too surprised. I think that there's going to be a lot of mind games here, but they should probably try to feel each other out first.
The probe now scouting out, sees the command center coming down here on the low ground. Now, there's nothing really out of the ordinary going on so far. Both these builds can go into pretty much any direction here, so nothing dramatic. For the time being, we have the mothership core now coming up. The scouting probe did pull away immediately in the hopes to avoid the Reaper. The Reaper, by the way, now looking for the probe. It's not uncommon to hide it in the upper left, but Stats actually pulled that over to the far right here and is not hiding it anywhere else on the map, is instead going to send that back to get some extra mining done.
You know, I really like that from Stats, realizing that TY is going to check every little nook and cranny for this probe. You know, pylon rushing with a mothership core, even after a Nexus, can be very strong. So Stats says, screw it, I'm not gonna lose a probe. He's gonna look for it anyways. I may as well just go home.
Very good mind games coming here from Stats in that regard. Because you're right, the Reaper did not end up scouting right away because it did want to get that probe. We now have a robotics facility being made inside the main of the Protoss. Back in the Terran's base, we are going over and seeing a star port coming up along with a Widow Mine. Again, Artosis, both these guys going for very middle of the road builds here.
Yeah, and that's really interesting to see out of Stats. This is something he's been practicing a lot lately. He'll probably go directly into Colossus Tech and get those incredibly powerful splash damage units out, try to hold on against everything that TY tries to throw at him early on.
It seems so far like both these players wanting to test the waters out against each other, using builds that are kind of okay against anything in the hopes that they can get a better read, possibly going into game 2. But the Reaper, by the way, now moving around. Can this Adept get an intercept? He spots the robotics facility. A very good scout maneuver here by TY, chucking a mine in, knocking those probes off the minerals for a few seconds before it is finally taken out.
Almost gets a probe there, not quite though. Some good juking and jiving. The thing is, he got a lot of information there. He didn't see every gateway, but he certainly saw that robotics, and that gives him at least an idea of what Stats could be doing.
Meanwhile, for TY, Marines and a Cyclone are pushing out. There is a Widow Mine located in the bottom main here for TY. It looks like he'll now move that as well, as he does see with a Robo build, and we didn't see any War Prism come in there just yet. He's instead going to use that to try to hit from 2 sides at once. Now, this is what TY is probably better at this phase of the game than any other player in the world. It's not easy to dismantle a Protoss, especially at the level of Stats when they're just on 2 bases, but TY has done it to players almost as good as Stats, so Stats is going to need to watch out.
Okay, he's going to hit both locations at once. This observer does see the medevac incoming. Will Stats respond in time? Marines and a Cyclone going into the natural, targeting down those stalkers so quickly, and an overcharge in the main base. So far, Stats holding strong.
Stats with solid defense only loses that one stalker in the process. Meanwhile, back in the main, a humiliated medevac does have to turn around. TY, in some sense, is feeding into Stats.
he did not manage to do really much of anything back there. I mean, it's really quite fine for Protoss to trade some attacking units in order to keep the Terran off of your probes back.
Absolutely. He's lost nothing as far as economy goes. Only a couple units falling and reducing that Marine count, killing off a Cyclone. This is fantastic for Stats, who is trying to play a defensive macro game here on Newkirk Precinct.
We have a few observers out on the map. He needs to be very, very careful with these because the Robotech for Protoss is so important. Observers, Warp Prisms, Immortals, all coming out of the same structure. Taking out a few Protoss units early on, especially those Robo units, is huge because it forces you to go back and then try to re-engineer how you're going to end up macroing those critical units out. He has to use those observers to try and spot any medevacs on the map. The strongest thing for Terran oftentimes in a Terran versus Protoss is drops in different locations that can dismantle the Protoss and ultimately make them fall apart.
And if he can't get any of that done, then suddenly Stats is going to have a massive and powerful army. Already the second Colossus is almost done, his Thermal Lance upgrade finishing, and getting a Twilight as well. He's going to want to get into those upgrades for his Gateway units just to make sure that he can support that big Colossus army. In the meantime, TY finally floating down his third command center. Stats didn't see it land quite yet, but he has to assume that it's going to be there pretty soon.
Most certainly so. They're both expanding at roughly the same rate, although we do have a push now coming out here. By the way, the observers does spot that command center. The push now from Terran is coming across the map. Protoss does sometimes want to try to leverage the tiny area in between that obstruction at the top and the Nexus to make it a little bit more difficult for the Terran to get us around. But noting where the Colossus was in the natural as well as at the third base, he's debating going in. But very good play. Spots that observer at the last second, pulls around. At that moment, TY could have walked into a trap.
Oh
Meanwhile,
my God.
a Liberator comes down here, forcing some of these probes to evacuate. The harass from TY is beginning to pick up.
Fantastic plays by TY. Stims and spreads going in towards his third base. Stats trying to hold on. No overcharges here. Killing off that very first pylon. And TY just targeting the Nexus. It doesn't look like he should be able to get it, though.
TY has to be careful. Overextending too much could cost way more medevac energy than you want and bruise the rest of your army in the long run. TY, after trying to get in there and do that damage, he does decide to back off. Currently, supplies right now roughly for both players at about 120. So nobody with a very clear lead here just yet. It does seem that TY, one that wants to be more of the initiator.
He certainly does. You know, you need to get that damage done. If Protoss is left alone, they can get an army so powerful that you have to be a magician to live through its attack. But TY is trying to shave off anything he can. He's making brilliant moves, but even more brilliantly, Stats is holding on.
Now we have Stats pushing out. Now Stats usually doesn't attack unless he's pretty confident he can win, but this is a smart play here from TY. Looking for an opening anywhere. He does burrow that Widow Mine. He needs to sacrifice this one probe. Meanwhile, an attack over here. SCVs have been pulled. The Terran moving forward. One Colossus does go down.
Oh, attacking forward still. That Guardian Shield helping out so much, but there are a lot of Vikings here. The Colossi getting low. The second Colossus does in fact fall. TY looping around his command center, coming down with that stim. The Warp Prism trying to hit the main base, but does get taken out.
That Warp Prism gunned down here. 2 Colossus killed and a third one badly bruised. TY survives that attack.
Very well done. In fact, 19 SCVs killed off here. Stats doing a good job against that army. In the meantime, there is some counter harassment, not doing as much as TY would like, though.
As you can see here, these Adepts now shade in. As Terran is a little bit spread thin on trying to defend everywhere, he'll try to shade as many of these out as he possibly can, and then use whatever has escaped as a pin later on to put some pressure so that if Terran does leave, he can go back in again. In the upper right side of the map, we do see Stats now taking a fourth base. We're still waiting to see when exactly TY will expand. He may expand along with the Protoss, but there's also the possibility he tries to be aggressive himself, because on 4 bases, Protoss is pretty spread out on the map, and that's really where medevac drops become incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and he didn't lose too much. Like, his army is still very strong. Stats continues to spend a lot of money on teching out, you know, getting those different upgrades, those different tech structures, those powerful splash damage units. So this is a great moment for TY to abuse the fact that Stats does not have a gigantic army yet.
TY has now backed up, respecting the map presence that Stats has exhibited here. We did see a Dark Shrine on the way. well-placed observers throughout the map. TY, it looks like he's debating possibly coming out here. He's actually going to scan, and wow, talk about a very lucky observer.
He was literally looking for that observer with that scan. There's always an observer around here, but Stats, very meta of him, has it a little bit further back than TY expects.
Whoa! Oh. Disruptor goes off. TY seems to be caught off guard, perhaps his screen somewhere else, not being vigilant over his army. A big blow there. I'm wondering if TY should turn around.
He might need to, but instead he sieges up here. His Liberator's getting into position. In fact, even going to take down these rocks. Now this makes a hard position. Do you fly into the main base? How does Stats block that? If he tries to go up with all of his army, you can hit that third again.
So TY with a good setup over here, making this very difficult. The two Adepts mentioned earlier do come in here to try to punish the Terran for being too present on the map. The Assimilator is under attack for the time being, and it looks like we may have in the middle of the map, yes, we do. We have some more Adepts moving across to try to punish the third base. Back over here at the Protoss's fight, we see that he's solely trying to take this out. However, TY still in a pretty good tactical position there.
Yeah, TY's multitasking, though, a little bit off right there, not looking at his units. 2 big disruptor hits so far this game from Stats.
We see Stats shade in now, coming into the way of the reinforcements, but he's not trying to attack the Marines and the Marauders. He wants to go to the SCVs. The ones he doesn't kill are certainly not mining as they're forced to retreat.
Still shading all around the place, trying to deal any damage he can right now to TY's economy. This also keeps a lot of TY's army back, which keeps him off of Stats' back. He just wants to be able to finish some of these upgrades, get a few more disruptors, maybe some more Colossi, and he's going to be in a great spot.
As every passing a minute of this game goes on, we still do not see TY with a third base. That usually tells us he really does want to try to pick a fight here. Only just now starting that command center. TY may need to do some damage coming up here, because right now, Stats is still hitting SCVs back in his base, and we have a huge drop coming in now. The main is scanned, and it is vulnerable as these medevacs unload.
Here comes a disruptor as they all unload. TY picking back up quite a few, but a great hit with that disruptor. Right now we have the Liberators sieging up the area as well. This is going to be really messy for him to actually clean up.
TY is everywhere, destroying key tech structures inside the base. Stats now coming in to try to eliminate this. Disruptors being shot down before they can get the damage that they need to do. Force fields come down, but it does look like TY does have the opportunity here to escape.
Stats trying to do counter damage, but it is not working out at all. TY landing those Vikings down at the third base, wiping out all the probes there as well. Looks like a huge disruptor. It will almost clear all of them, and Stats does end up pushing everything back.
While Stats is trying to use these remaining Adepts over here, it does look like the Nexus at the third base is still under fire, but as these Stalkers come down here to try to reinforce, TY will eventually have to back off. As we take a step back from this game, we need to note 17 workers here for TY, 38 probes here for Stats.
It is a really big difference, but don't forget, we have triple mules coming down. That'll stabilize some of the income. Oh my God, a big blink forward though. Picking off these medevacs, a lot of red units.
GG! Stats wins game number 1 with superior and more efficient harass, reducing the worker count, and ultimately with a push that would have ended the game there for TY. Stats wins game number 1.
That right there was a masterclass in defensive Protoss play. Stats deflected the original drops, the Liberators, the ground attacks, every single thing TY threw at him. Stats just wiped it away.
I gotta say, Stats in some ways beginning to look a little bit like a Rain 2.0 Artosis. He just stays back, waits for your attacks to come in, and as long as he's defending them perfectly, the Terran is bleeding off too many units. And eventually, Stats, in this case on 4 bases to TY's 3, was able to muster up a bigger army in the long run, do a counter push, and TY simply did not have the tools at his disposal to hold anything like that off.
Yeah, but you know, TY had some great moves in there as well. In fact, even the moves that got deflected by Stats were so precisely and well done that I'm amazed that he was able to hold on against all of them. I especially liked landing the Vikings at that third base while doing the big drop with Liberators in the main. A fantastic move, but he had lost too many SCVs to Stats Adepts.
We're going to be going into game number 2 shortly here. If you're just now joining us, Stats did defeat TY. 1-0 so far, but it is a best of 7. Remember, guys, they both went for very middle-of-the-road builds in that first game. Usually an attempt like that in a best of 7, you're trying to get as much information about your opponent's play style as possible to see what kind of strategies you can engineer going into game 2, 3, and 4, and hopefully use that to your advantage. But regardless of all that, it does look like we have, in this case, Stats winning this game pretty handedly. From what we can see already, I don't think he's going to have any hard time against someone like TY, but we'll see. TY's a crafty player.
Well, you know, this map was pretty straightforward overall. I do wonder what the next map is going to be. We'll see in just a moment here, but some of these maps, you're going to have to play differently. You're not going to be able to just go very fast Colossus rush and deflect every drop on some of them. So TY, I don't know, man. I think he can still fight this back. This is going to be close either way.
Yeah, you very well may be right, Artosis. And it does seem that we are getting closer and closer to starting game number 2. Now, remember, you can cheese in this. You might see some of their play early on and say, maybe we can do a lot of damage. Let's see what these two players have in store for us as we now do enter game number 2, TY versus Stats.
In the upper right, in the red, our Terran player, he is TY! In the bottom left, in the blue, currently the greatest Protoss player in the world, he is Stats!
Proxima Station is our map here in game number 2, and this one can give us some truly epic Terran vs. Protoss games. It is a very droppable map, and you can be sure we're going to see TY trying to abuse that on Stats.
We have the probe now coming out, going over to the other starting location on the map. This is a map that does encourage players to try to get an expansion up early. You can pretty much get one for free back here. In some cases, we've seen players, and depending on the matchup, they'll try to take the expansion that's out in the front so they can get that one in the back later on for free, and it's a little bit harder to read for the opposing player when exactly that base was taken.
Well, that back expansion going to be taken by Stats very quickly. No doubt TY going to throw down a command center of his own coming up here. And, you know, I don't think we're going to see too much action until that very first drop from TY comes out across the map.
I think you're probably right, Artosis. For the time being, we see the add-on coming here for the Terran structure, the SCV. It looks like it's being sent down here to the south center.
Ooh.
And he is going to hide a factory. Now, remember, we saw those very middle-of-the-road builds in game number 1. This time, TY going with a proxy strategy, a factory down here in the bottom center. Now, to be honest with you, Artosis, thought TY was probably going to play a little bit more of a less aggressive game in game number 2.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if Stats is going to predict this. We don't see a probe that's been sent out to check that bottom location, although that is at the Protoss's, Protoss can do that if he wants to, but it doesn't seem like he's decided to check there.
I would be really surprised. It's kind of out of the way, you know. This is a cool place to try a proxy out. I wonder what he's going to go for, though. Is this just going to be a very quick mine drop?
Could be. We do see the starport down here. Now, bear in mind, whenever you do strategies like this, it does act a bit as a double-edged sword. These two structures are all the way down here at the bottom of the map. It's a very long travel distance to fly them back home. So it's very important for the Terran that you do a lot of damage when you do a strategy like this, because otherwise you're losing all that production time as they fly across the map, and possibly, Artosis, you're losing all those buildings as well, because eventually the Protoss is going to go over there and try to kill them if you don't get them back in time.
Well, this is going to be extremely interesting because this Oracle is going to be flying across the map when this Widow Mine drop comes. And that means that all the detection, anything that's good against Widow Mines here is not going to be in the main base. Does he start a second Oracle right away? or does he try to go into some other tech, maybe another Nexus?
That's the big question, Artosis. This Oracle headed northbound, and it's going to be a Phoenix being made next.
Okay, the Phoenix will be somewhat helpful, but it can't detect, so that Oracle might have to turn around. But the thing is, there's not that many Marines on the other side of the map. If Stats is very thrifty with that Oracle, he can get a lot of damage done in TY's base.
Okay, the medevac is now moving out, but first the Oracle does come in. Marines in position to deflect. Oracle now looping back around. It does appear the second base is naked. Nothing here to defend. However, he did kind of arc around that. I think he could have done a little bit more damage. Meanwhile, Widowmine being dropped, targeting the mothership, and it does connect.
Okay, it hits the mothership at first, only killing off one probe, so not too bad, but oh god, it looks like another mine did get dropped off. 7 probes so far falling, and no detection at home, immediately starting another Oracle.
And this is a problem. These Widow mines are about to fire again. It could connect with even more probes, putting Stats further behind.
Oh my god.
He hasn't separated his probes yet, and it hits 4 probes. And get ready for even more. Stats now trying to react, but the targeting from TY is too good. And now 6 more kills total in the second mine shot here from Stats.
These are gigantic hits. I think Stats didn't even realize there was one in his main base. And now TY coming down, hitting on the pylon. He has, well, this is kind of a funny looking little army, but it definitely can get some damage done.
Finally, these mines are going to be cleaned up. Meanwhile, Terran is beginning to push into the front. This economy of Stats here has been hiccuped pretty heavily. So many Cyclones, Vikings, and Marines now hitting the Nexus. A bruised Terran army, Protoss army stays in the back for the time being. The Vikings now pick up the Cyclones being activated and kiting the air units.
Oh, the Adepts coming up with Phoenixes and a couple Oracles trying to do some lifts here. Great targeting by TY, but there might be too many Adepts to actually break through.
The Cyclone damage distribution has been too good for a little bit there. We saw 3 Cyclones all in the red doing so much damage. And of course, with the rate at which a Cyclone fires, it can kill a lot of units. Now the medevac headed southbound. It looks like possibly to drop into the main. Liberator's still being made. I gotta say, TY is really going hard with this proxy rush, Artosis.
He really is. That Phoenix being micro to perfection from Statso, picking off every single unit he can, getting that final Viking. In the meantime, at home, TY making his own 3rd command center, realizing if he can't kill Stats, he has to join him in taking another base.
So TY, after that pretty intense fight, is going to try to transition into proper late game here. Now regrouping and preparing to land a command center over here at his 3rd base. The Phoenixes do find the floating structure, but I have to say, Artosis, I do really feel like the amount of damage that TY did, especially to the probes, and a little bit with that push at the front, I think this attack was a success. I think that TY is going to have no problem getting a 3rd base and going into a standard TVP from here on out.
I would say that you're pretty much right about that, Tasteless. Like, when you open with an Oracle, you can get a quick 3rd anyways. And TY is sitting here, he's not down that many workers considering how quickly Protoss can make them. Even the Oracle didn't do as much damage as I thought it could.
Eventually, that starport does get away. The Phoenixes certainly do not kill structures very quickly on the map. Now a Liberator harass coming in. It does not seem like Stats is prepared. The Phoenixes are not in position. 2, 3, and 3 kills before the Liberator then escapes from the pylon.
Yeah, the Phoenixes are around somewhere, though. Probably will try to hunt down that Liberator. Still, TY making sure that Stats has to play safe, watch out for incoming drops and Liberators. That's nice, you know, it keeps the Phoenixes away from TY's base.
As we move forward here, the medevac does get back home. TY continuing to build up. Presently, the supply is at 93 to 92, so they're fairly even. And in Terran versus Protoss, if the supply is even, then they are even. It's not always like that in every matchup.
Yeah.
So in this case, we don't really want to give either player a massive lead, other than to say that TY's Harassus game has been quite scary, and frankly, a lot better than it was in game number 1.
Oh, he is really bringing it this time, Tasteless. Opening with a proxy strategy, getting that damage done, following it up with very strong macro as well. But Stats, he's going into one of the scariest strategies that Protoss has against Terran right now, which is Phoenix Adept. How will TY play against this? I feel personally, Tasteless, he's one of the best at taking out this style of play.
The Phoenix Adept is a very scary combo. Adepts themselves are already pretty pretty beefy units. They can usually win most of the fights you put them in. But to top that all off, they can get into very good positions because of the shade ability. So sometimes you go for harass, sometimes you hunt down small groups of units, sometimes in your corner you use the shade to escape. That comboed with Phoenixes, which can pick up certain units, eliminating them from a fight, make this very, very difficult for a Terran player to deal with.
Oh my God, the Phoenixes catch 2 Widow Mines here. This is really bad news for TY. He is gonna have to run away from this army. Without Widow Mines, there is no chance in beating that many Adepts.
The Widow Mines, one of the direct counters here to Phoenix Adept, as that splash damage is so strong against Phoenixes that tend to stack on top of each other, and Adepts that unshade very close by.
Oh my God, this wall and being made so Shades cannot get through, but there's actually an SCV on top of that depot. Maybe a little mistake from TY. You definitely do not want to let that many Adepts get through your wall in.
We'll see if that plays a role later on. Meanwhile, Stats is trying to come inside and do a little bit of harass over here. Looks like he's going to lose that Warp Prism. The Adepts are now in. SCVs are being pulled to the right side of the mineral patch here. Meanwhile, as TY pushes out, other Adepts that would have been used in a pin technique to go in and counter if TY ever moved all the way out have been eliminated.
Oh, look at this cool usage of the Cyclone Stasis. He brought these here after the initial rush and is just leaving them at that back natural. That's a place that we see Adepts do good work against SCVs all game long on this map. And with the Cyclones not really transitioning well into the later game against Protoss, they're just sitting there on defense. I really love the ingenuity of TY in this game.
I couldn't agree more. By the way, we are gearing up now into late game here as fourth bases are being acquired or about to be acquired here. And we're getting to the final phase of the tech as we see things like Storm, for instance, getting upgraded, and Terran really beginning to bulk up in this very scary unit composition. Ghost as well coming into play because EMP is obviously so strong in so many situations against Protoss.
Yeah, you know, they're really both reaching up that tech tree very quickly, and that is so important in Terran versus Protoss. Having those ghosts is going to make the Adepts a lot weaker. In fact, the whole army, force field's going down as he tries to run away.
We see the gold base is being taken here by TY. This is a more bold move than the conservative play here for Stats, expanding over there to the upper left, a location much harder for the Terran to break. Now getting some Archons, but TY out on the map. I don't believe he wants to push all the way in, but he is going to try to pin his opponent down here. Excuse me, no, he's stimming and coming forward. He's going for the attack. Is this an overextension?
Oh my God, he's hitting right before Storm as well. Stimming forward, attacking all of Stats' army. He's in a lot of trouble.
TY closing forward. The Immortal goes down, the Archon as well. There seems to be too many Terran units. 178 supply to 80. This timing right before Psionic Storm and potentially a lackluster counterattack here from Stats. This is huge.
It is indeed. The fourth base looks like it is going to be devastated. And GG! TY evening up the series immediately at 1-1.
Absolutely phenomenal play back there from TY. Taking the gold base, but at the same time identifying that that key tech, Psionic Storm, was not quite finished, and therefore, if he engages properly, he possibly can run over his opponent. A late game timing that had to be executed within a matter of seconds upon identifying that it was a possibility. He did it, and he crushed Stats.
That was just a magnificent display of TY's power. After a game one in which Stats deflected absolutely everything and looked unbeatable, TY turns it on his head and it takes that game. I mean, that was fantastic.
A much stronger showing there from TY, going for a more unique style of play, doing the proxy build. Although Stats did a very good job holding it off, it seemed like Stats had lost a good amount of tempo overall in that game. I do wonder if that attack would have looked like it did the endgame attack had that rush at the start not started. It's really funny, even though the game on the surface level might look like it's normalized, a lot of times if Protoss loses a bunch of probes really early on, you really are growing at a different rate, because if that game had started out with them doing builds like they had done in game one, I don't believe that attack would have run over Stats the same way. I think he's a good enough player, he would have been ready. But you can see as he pushed out, TY does 2 scans and then immediately identifies, okay, he's just enough behind me, not in army size, but in upgrades. I can end this game right here, right now.
I think that's an excellent analysis of what happened there. And I think as well, just the fact that it was Phoenix Adept, you know, this very strong mid-game comp. As soon as we started to hit the late game, you know, we're sitting there around 170 supply. In comes TY, he has the Ghost, he has a more complicated army, and just knocks the nerd over.
Well, now it's tied up 1-1. Let's see who gets a lead here in game number 3. In the bottom right, in the red, our Terran player winning game number 2.
He is TY! And his opponent here in the upper left, in the blue, our Protoss player. Make some noise for Stats!
Absolutely anybody's series at this point. Both of them just dominating one game so far. Abyssal Reef, I love this as our third map. It gives us a lot of crazy close games, but it's definitely a map that Protoss needs to take the initiative on. If Terran can set up outside of your base, there's so many ledges that Liberators, Widow Mines, and Siege Tanks can really abuse.
We do have the first probe coming out now, and it will be making a nexus over here at the natural. Again, this could look very ordinary, but later on, Protoss can do a lot of different crazy things off of this. So this isn't much of a tell just yet. We just know that he's at least going to go for 2 bases over 1.
Yeah, indeed, I think that's what TY is going to be going for as well. Just standard build orders, kind of like game number 1. And in fact, even game number 2 was pretty close to this, going up to it. Don't think we'll see anything like proxy play, especially considering Stats has sent out this quick scouting probe.
Command center now does go down here. The Reaper is mostly used to try to scout here and get anything that can identify the tech or the general direction of the game. It's also used to pin the Protoss to his base, because if the Protoss does try to leave, the Reaper can then run up there and do some damage, taking out probes, interrupting mining, or even just doing some basic scouting.
Probe on the way home, the Reaper kind of following as well, not sitting around looking for the probe here like it did in game number 1. So we'll see what type of scouting can get done, but Stats, okay, actually starting a Stargate.
A Stargate does go down here, and if you're new to StarCraft II and you're seeing that there's an engineering bay being made over there at that Nexus, you are not crazy. That is actually a technique used here, because that does block off the majority of those mineral patches. And of course, later on, Terran can simply cancel that when it starts to take damage. So this is a great way to punish that Protoss that did make a Nexus a little bit quicker than the command center was for Terran.
Yeah, this is really a TY special. It keeps Protoss so off your back. You know, they have to attack it down and take care of it, and all their units do little damage against buildings early on here. And on top of that, he gets the scout on the fact that it's a Stargate. This is a very nice opening for TY. I think he's going to be very comfortable.
At this point in time, Stats is an open book for TY. It's very clear what direction, at least for the time being, Stats is going to do. Now, granted, Stats is not just good at strategy, but execution as well. So we'll see how good the defense is exactly here for TY, and whether or not he can hold off this Oracle that is going to be inbound towards his worker line.
Now this is pretty cool. He's going for that Widow Mine drop that we're all so used to, but TY has also added in a Hellion. And that Hellion can actually run up if the mothership core goes into a different location and fry a lot of probes, make them start running, but it's difficult to run probes correctly against a Hellion because of all the splash damage.
And we have a bunker rush. There's a bunker rush. A bunker rush over there in the center left. We'll get to that in a moment, but first the Oracle is coming down here, and TY actually going to double down on aggression while this Oracle is headed over here. He does have a Hellion in position, and he's got a Viking on the way, but he may lose some SCVs before they can stop this Oracle. The Oracle coming in, and look at how cautious he's being. He doesn't realize this base is naked. He could be killing so many more SCVs. Finally, he's now going all in, going ham on the SCVs. The Cyclone finally does begin to spawn. Meanwhile, the bunker rush has commenced up in the upper left.
Oh, this is absolutely crazy. We've seen this before in this tournament. This is so hard to actually break. TY could potentially kill the Nexus in this situation. Look at that. The Hellion coming up and going after the probes.
Microing this Hellion. He's taking out so many workers. Meanwhile, that Nexus taking so much damage. 4 kills so far. The Adepts do come down, but a Widow Mine is in position.
Oh, Splash damage all over those Phoenixes and Adepts. It's going to be really tough to actually break through here. Even a Viking coming in at the moment, that's going to be picked off rather quickly, though.
Looks like the Viking actually does land and then it's been picked back up to be killed up by the Phoenixes. But this Nexus goes down and TY has been playing a brilliant game so far.
This is magnificent. Even faking out on the mineral patches, pretending there was a Widow Mine there to prevent the Oracle from doing too much damage. I am in shock at the brilliance of TY's play. This is already the player we consider to be the smartest in the game, but he is showing it here in spades.
TY took the tactics, turned it up to 11 and ripped off the knob. Each game is crazier than the one before as he is outmaneuvering Stats even further here in game number 3. Now that's not to say that Stats can't come back. Stats possibly one of the most resilient and robust players in all of StarCraft II history, but he is going to be trying to climb back up into an even position here with TY for the time being.
It looks like Stats wants to play Adept Phoenix. If TY can see that this is the case and play a very defensive game, he might be able to get up to that killer army that we saw in the previous map.
A brief tag there with the Oracle on the units in the main. He does not get the Cyclone Marines and Medevac there that was in the natural. It's now over here also in the main. We have the third base here for Stats being made. It was made, finished. It is put in a position that's at times a little bit harder to hold. Terran can push that in a variety of different ways, but you know, Protoss had to do something after losing that initial Nexus, so in some ways TY forced Stats to expand there.
Yeah, you know, you can't wait for the Nexus to die and clear that and then start a new Nexus. It's just too slow. But look at this, TY with all the air units on his side of the map immediately loaded up a Widow Mine drop. Oh, a beautiful location, something you just can't see as Stats.
The Widow Mine burrows, and it will connect 4 more kills as Stats may be dying just over so many separate attacks throughout this game that eventually are going to pile up into a potential loss here against TY.
Stats having to go back home with that Oracle, has to detect this Widow Mine and take it out. What an annoying little drop here from TY. Another fantastic move.
As you can see, the Widow Mine is now running away over here. It will eventually be picked off, but that is the end of that story. I gotta say, you know, one of the reasons why you don't normally see Protoss take that as a third base is because of tactics just like that one, where he does get in there and do that damage, and there really wasn't that much you could see. Oh my God.
Oh, that would have been deadly.
Been disastrous. Even though that would not have killed all those Phoenixes, it would have bruised them all, and Phoenixes already die pretty quickly.
Oh my gosh. Over there with the Oracle as well. That is a lot of Phoenixes. This is getting to be a very scary army that Stats has, but TY is turtling nicely. He has some Widow Mines about. He has some missile turrets. Those are both going to help out a lot if Stats tries to jump on top of TY's army.
Back at home for TY, he's continuing to macro up. By the way, as far as worker count goes, it's 62 for Stats, 58 here for TY, plus the number of mules that are out at any given point in time. So Stats, economically, not really in bad shape at all. In fact, in the overall supply, he's ahead.
Yeah, this is pretty cool, though, because the amount of workers, oh my gosh, almost running into that Widow Mine. Stats so on top of this air fleet right now, knowing that even one Widow Mine hit could be the difference between him winning and losing this game.
And so many games here in the Intel Extreme Masters have come down to the fact that 1 or 2 Widow Mines hit that key Protoss air army, and it's too softened up to sustain in a big fight with a sophisticated Terran army. Now, let's also keep in mind the fact that when you're going for that Phoenix Adept, if you stay on that, it's really problematic in the very, very late game because Terran does have a more complex army. So we do see in this case an Immortal coming out, Blink being upgraded, but he doesn't have those key units in his army just yet. So I don't know if there could be some other kind of timing coming up here from TY like we saw in game number 2.
Well, Tastes, I think you just nailed it right there. With that Ghost Academy on the way, that is exactly what he's looking to do. He wants to get up to this technical army that should crush this Gateway and Stargate-based stuff. Really, you're against Ghost-type tech, against all these Liberators and everything, you need robotics units, you need that splash damage, and I don't think Stats is going to have anything of the sort.
Stats now poking out, does tag this army. TY being pretty brave moving out here quite comfortably, I'd say, and actually driving Stats back The supply here for Stats is still in the lead, 176 to 162. The Templar Archives is now done, although we do not see Psystorm just yet.
Yeah, no Psystorm yet, but 3 Ghosts already on the way. So TY could be gearing up to attack. His supply is up, getting around that magical number. He's about 180, almost maxed out now. That's an area where Adepts are not going to be worth nearly as much.
We have a drop over here. Liberation zones have been set up, and a lot of these Adepts being killed off almost immediately. In fact, none of them are able to shade away, and the Warp Prism goes down as well. A bit of a bungled harass there by Stats.
He's trying to get anything done to get back in this game. He's got to buy time. That Psystorm is on the way, but TY is about to finish up 2-2. That's going to put him 2 upgrades up. That is going to give him Ghosts and Liberators and Mines, in addition to his regular Bio Force, against just a Gateway army that has some Phoenixes supporting it.
It appears that the push could be coming out soon, perhaps even now. Storm is about maybe 1/3 of the way complete here. Ghosts are in the game and a real factor here and a threat for the Protoss. Let's see if TY does that push, because it's possible that Stats gets run over one more time.
Oh, the Adept shading through right now. Don't think that they'll let that finish. Yeah, it does get canceled. Nice EMP goes down. He's going to have to recharge those shields before they meet.
Regrouping over here, just under the Intel Extreme Masters logo, is Stats trying to get into position. He wants to force liberation zones so that Terran, instead of darting over to the base of Stats, has to do a slow crawl, leapfrogging the Liberators as Stats continuously pokes in.
Here we go, the big attack happens. Those Phoenixes trying to take down Liberators very slowly though. Psystorm is done, it goes down very nicely. A couple Ghosts in the front, but not EMPing the High Templars.
And with Storm out, it's gonna be much tougher for TY to push. He can't win this game like he won the last. And it looks like Stats is gonna go in again with a brilliant Storm, hitting so many infantry down there. And a second one as well. The Liberators go down. Stalkers and Immortals in pursuit as Stats wins that fight.
Just fantastic. Psystorms falling down. Stats bought the time he needed. In the meantime, trying to do some harassment, but it gets cleaned up pretty easily.
The Warp Prism is going to be picked off here as well. But Stats, after winning that fight, he has map control for the time being, and another expansion, it looks like. He's growing at a very scary rate.
But TY has taken his 4th base here, and that's really important. I think it's a planetary, in fact, so should be able to hold on pretty well. Stats starting to attack. I think that this would be a mistake, though. While this is a lot of really great technical units, is this army big enough to actually break through TY?
You can see here TY up against the ropes a little bit. Now, economically, I think he's doing fine, and I don't think Protoss can get through here, but, you know, with Stats in a dominant position, he does go ahead and just shave off a few buildings there before backing up. TY with a small group. I believe it's 2 medevacs. Yes, it is. 2 medevacs coming out here, but if this gets caught by those Phoenixes, that would be huge. The Phoenix is spotted, but the unload is quick.
It is indeed a lot of Phoenixes here. They are going to be forced back. In fact, TY does better in that small engagement for the time being. But Stats so on top of things, not letting TY in for any damage.
We have Liberators coming up here. Notice that the harass here, despite the large supply from TY, is fairly sparse, and for the most part, easily answered here by Stats.
A Liberator comes and sets up at this 3rd base, going to be able to take out this High Templar and stop mining for quite some time. He's going to have to send his air army over there.
Yeah, perhaps Stats being a little bit too aggressive here on the map. TY does still have that liberation zone set up. TY hungry for another base, but it's possible Stats could, after taking out that Liberator, come in here and stomp that base.
All right, finally dealing with this Liberator. TY floating down that main command center as well. This is the point where we probably won't see TY expand anywhere else for a bit. It's getting really hard to hold on to everything as Stats is super mobile on the map.
TY grouping up right now. It's very important he keeps this position. Again, Stats throughout this entire Intel Extreme Masters has exhibited so much self-control, so much patience in making sure that he does not overextend. And we're seeing it here once again as he backs up and continues to pump out upgrades.
Those High Templars, that is really the crux of this game. If he can keep them alive, if he can keep hitting these storms, he can beat TY. But TY is hunting them nonstop, using countless scans. In the meantime, going for an attack on this 3rd base.
Now, as you can see, the storms pair very well with the cannons. You can hold off an army with virtually very little supply of yours actually occupying that location. 1 to 2 Templars spread around the map. I believe, I'm sorry, can we go back to the 2 Templars on the far right? Was I seeing that right? There were 2 Templars. Were there?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
thought he had 2 Templars for some random reason to like feedback. Medivacs or something, excuse me.
Totally next level.
Yeah, next level stuff. Instead, it's 2 Adepts to come in here and try to do some damage over there and just hit some units. So far, the Storms are completely deflecting any attacks coming here from TY.
TY is doing a great job other than stopping these Psy Storms, and it can be really hard when Stats has this many bases. He can make as many High Templars as he wants, and he has them spread out everywhere.
TY continues to grow on his side of the map. We're getting to the point where both players are going to have a very difficult time managing harass on either side of their base. These Marauders still killing a lot of probes over here, by the way. I'm not sure if this is going to be, it is finally going to be cleaned up here due to these Phoenix pickups.
But still, these guys are really close to maxed out. They have hyper scary armies. If anyone takes a bad engagement, they can just die off immediately. So right now they're both going into kind of their final techs. Colossus with range for Stats and Liberators with range for TY.
Now, one thing Terran does have going for it in this very late phase of the game is that with Protoss so spread out, medevac drops can be very, very strong. That, as well as the fact that Protoss has to be very careful about those robo units in some ways even more, as it's much easier for Terran to replenish Marines and Marauders and medevacs since they're coming out of more basic tech structures.
Okay, TY sniping this base, not quite letting it get down. He has taken another base of his own, which is really nice for him at the moment. Even Cloak on the way here for his Ghosts. And of course, those Liberators, when they get range, this is going to turn into a very positional game.
It does seem that the Adept harass has been pretty good, but honestly, a lot of probes have been picked off at these expansions. We even see these Marines and Marauders are putting a pretty good fight up against these Adepts and Phoenixes that are over at this location. Looks as though Stats does want to try to push out and control a little bit more of the middle of the map, but I have to say, harass-wise, I think this is in some ways going a little bit better for TY, but not by that much.
Yeah, it's still pretty close. But those Colossus are coming out, which is adding such muscle to Stats' army. There's not really any Vikings out to deal with them, so that is a problem. But ranged Liberators can do all right against that. It's just how well can TY reposition everything as Stats moves around the map? And my answer for that generally is better than anyone else. TY is the best at repositioning armies like this.
And he's already in the middle of doing that right now. In a lot of ways, the Colossus is a direct response to the Ghosts in the game. The fact that the EMP doesn't seem to completely disable a Colossus like it would, for instance, a Templar. You EMP a Templar, it's a paperweight at that point in time in the game. But note the tactical setup here for TY. He's been abusive of this position on the map almost this entire game. If we can get a quick shot of that, he can deny mining there and push up over here. There's a lot of Templars. Will the Storms be enough to drive this back? It looks like it will. However, Stats is not mining from that location. Meanwhile, a big push in here from Stats coming forward. These liberation zones are set up, but the Stalkers are completely annihilated, forcing Stats back.
Great job with those EMPs and the quick cloak on those Ghosts. TY also, as he retreats from the left side of the map, knocks out another base Stats was going for. TY doing a fantastic job right now of holding on everywhere, and it looks like he's even going to take yet another expansion.
TY getting to a comically large size on this map. It gets harder and harder for Terrans to take further out spots on the map as the game goes on. So TY really stretching the limits of Terran itself here as this game moves forward. The liberation zones are set up. The rocks are being torn down. The Ghosts move in first here for the EMPs on the Templars.
Wow, great size Storms trying to prevent this army from coming up, and in fact it will for the time being, but the rest of the army follows quickly behind. More and more size Storms, more and more High Templars coming, but TY sniping them all.
As you can see, TY with a brilliant setup over here. He may have actually knocked Stats up against the rope. Stats in the middle of a Tempest tech. They're not even in position. The Nexus is under threat. Stats has to respond quickly, but if he does, will it be an overextension? Perhaps it'd be wiser to let this Nexus go down, although it would force Stats' economy to begin to dwindle.
Yeah, that's really rough for Stats, but he has some Tempest out on the map. If he's slow and patient about it, he can start to kill off some of these Liberators, which is really the power in TY's army at the moment.
I'm curious if the push is even done yet. Does TY try to edge further forward and get the Nexus north of that position? Does he try to hold? Oh, yes, in fact, he does. He's coming in now. But the Tempest here with this, the Colossi, excuse me, are just in such a setup that there's no way he can engage. Cutting his losses, he decides to back out. Now we have a depth harass coming through here, but so far it's been somewhat lackluster here for Stats.
Yeah, he's not finding the damage that he really wants. TY on top of it with sensor towers as well as full wall-ins. In the meantime, Stats is walking across the map. He still has a really scary army with those 4 Colossus.
As you can see here, Stats a lot less, I should say, blue as far as structures on the map compared to the red here of TY. Stats is going to have to try some kind of counterattack to balance this out, although it does seem that TY does have the right unit composition so far, especially with this many Liberators, to possibly set up defensive zones that might force Stats back.
Yeah, these Tempests, though, they are baiting TY slowly but surely. They can chip through everything that Terran has. He's trying to add enough Vikings, though. When he gets enough, he can go and engage. Vikings counter a huge percentage of this army.
And a really good play here from Stats. He identified there really just was not enough over here in the bottom left quadrant of the map. Now he's moving up. Can we get a vision check? Does he actually know about the base in the bottom? Oh, he does know about the base in the bottom left. Okay, I wasn't sure if he had missed that. Well, but meanwhile, TY with a counter coming up over here to the north, in the north center. Stats trying to assemble.
Oh my God, the Ghosts are here as well. Throwing down some EMPs, the rest of the army going up against this bio. I think that Stats is split very poorly. TY starting to take these engagements.
All right, TY going for the jugular here. He does come and force around. The Colossi are going down. TY furiously macroing. It's too much for Stats. GG!
Just a magnificent Terran versus Protoss game right there. You cannot find a higher level of this matchup having been played ever before. I have the sickest nerd chills, Tasteless, for real. This was magnificent.
These guys are so sick. Man, we're getting into insane late games. They are able to control so much of the map for such a long period of time. To be candid with you, Artosis, I did not think that you could have TVPs in late game that could look like this.
No, this was awesome. Just tech level after tech level countering each other. Stats fighting back after losing that early Nexus, ending up with the ultimate compositions on both sides. This game had it all.
It's been a fantastic series so far. Again, guys, it is a best of 7 here. So we are going to go ahead, before we get to these next games, go and throw to the desk here at the Intel Extreme Masters.